In a grand hall covered in spiderwebs, Shachiku and Danya face their opponent. The demon, Arachne, one of the Demon King's Elite Four, identifies Shachiku as the hero from another world. Arachne declares her intent to make him her puppet, but Danya vows that she won't let the Demon King have him. A few hours ago in Tokyo, a massive crowd cheers at the RTA summit. The speedrunner executes the final glitch of his run. Intensely focused, he prepares to land the killing blow. The crowd is amazed, exclaiming that the final time is just over 25 minutes. The speedrunner world record holder Shachiku Teide has set a new record by a huge margin. A brief explanation describes real-time attack, or speedrunning, as a competition to see how fast a game can be cleared. The explanation continues, noting that excellent play is a given, but speedrunners also use bugs or glitches to save time. An interviewer can't believe that Another Verse, a game that normally takes over 100 hours, was cleared in 25 minutes. He praises Shachiku Teide, noting that even the most difficult glitches seemed effortless. Shachiku dismisses the praise, finding it unbelievable himself. He humbly thanks everyone who cheered him on during his practice streams and his rivals for exchanging ideas with him. The interviewer asks what reward Shachiku has planned, but he replies that he has weekend work on his boss's orders. The live chat praises the fitting end to the RTA summit and thanks Shachiku for the run. Some viewers joke that he missed the final glitch. Shachiku sits at his computer, intensely focused. He reflects that even after practicing over 1,000 times, the final glitch's success rate is still no higher than 30%. With only 30 seconds left in a practice run, he pushes himself harder. He tells himself he can do better. He thinks that even the early game wall clip could be smoother. After messing up, he curses in frustration. Finally, he succumbs to exhaustion and falls asleep. Shachiku awakens to find himself floating in a starry void, completely disoriented and questioning what is happening. A disembodied voice echoes through the void, speaking of a goddess, celestial bodies overlapping, and a blessing for a lost soul. A brilliant beam of light descends into a massive cathedral. From the light, Shachiku materializes, now in the form of his game avatar. The summoners declare the ritual a success. The hero, looking around, wonders where he is, as the people thank the sky goddess for the miracle. A noblewoman instructs an aide to announce the successful summoning to the capital's citizens. However, some onlookers murmur that the hero doesn't seem strong, a worrying thought as they've been fighting the Demon King for 5 years. The queen addresses the summoned hero. She introduces herself as the kingdom's queen, Saintess of Salvation Ida. Ida explains that she summoned him through the great summoning ritual and asks for his power. She describes the threat of the Demon King Apocalypse and his followers who gush forth from the roots of evil. She warns that if they cannot seal away this evil, it is only a matter of time before the human world is destroyed. The queen tells the hero that he is the world's last hope. She kneels and pleads for his strength in defeating the Demon King. As this happens, Shachiku begins to recognize the situation. He recognizes this as the opening cutscene for Another Verse, a scene he knows all too well. He concludes that he must have played the game so much that he's now dreaming about it. He wonders why the perspective is first person this time. He questions if he accidentally chose first person in the settings, since he always plays in third person to avoid motion sickness. He feels like he's fully immersed in the game, his limbs moving according to his will, just like in real life. The thought of playing in such a godly environment excites him. He decides that he has to speedrun this. Queen Ida begins to offer him the holy sword. Before she can finish, he yells for her to wait and sprints past her, his internal timer starting. The queen orders someone to stop him. She shouts in disbelief as she sees him go through the wall. Shachiku narrates his strategy, explaining that he's ignoring the sword to skip the tutorial and escape via wall clipping, as the sword isn't needed to beat the bosses. The queen realizes the holy sword was left behind and wonders what just happened. She orders her guards to search for the hero. Danya, Idaheim's civilian disguise, spots him and runs after him. Shachiku sprints through the capital city of Falshula. A Capital Adventurer Guild member named Jean spots a new face. Jean offers to show the newcomer around the capital. Without breaking stride, Shachiku leaps over the stunned Jean, bluntly stating he has no interest and saying goodbye. Jean is left staring in shock as Shachiku runs off. Shachiku mentally commentates that this was the hardest part of the early game, the Jean-senpai skip. He explains that by performing a well-timed side jump, he can avoid the tutorial. He recalls that the timing is very difficult and often trips up new speedrunners. Getting caught results in a time loss of at least 4 minutes, which is terrible for a speedrun. Danya runs up to Jean. She asks if he saw the young man, and Jean tells her he went toward the north gate. Danya worries that the hero they waited 100 years for will die, having left unarmed. Jean is left crying, comparing the rude dismissal to being treated like a suspicious door-to-door seller. Danya apologizes to Jean and continues her pursuit. Shachiku arrives at the first dungeon, the Forest of the Dead, which is overflowing with undead. Danya manages to catch up to him. To her shock, his first instruction is for them to strip naked. She calls him shameless as he removes his shirt. He then tells her to pick up a nearby wooden stick. He then instructs her to run straight into the horde of undead, leaving Danya aghast. She demands to know what he is thinking. She exclaims that he's only wearing undies. Shachiku is swarmed and attacked by the undead. Danya watches the horde attack him. She thinks that he's just getting hit and that his actions are suicidal. She finds herself unable to watch any longer. After taking a significant amount of damage, a dark marking appears over Shachiku's eye. He stands confidently over the defeated undead as Danya peeks out from her hiding spot. Shachiku states that he has taken enough intentional damage and will now proceed without taking any more hits. Danya calls out for him to wait. She introduces herself as Danya, Idaheim's messenger, and reminds him he forgot the holy sword, warning he'll die from his wounds. Danya offers to cast healing magic, confident they can make it in time. Shachiku explains that this speedrun is in easy mode, which has an early game balancing adjustment. The less health you have, the weaker enemies become, so taking damage is a duty in a speedrun. He adds that they must wear only undies because shirts and pants increase defense. Danya chases after him, vowing to heal him. Shachiku identifies the chasing Danya as a will definitely heal you Yauka. He recognizes her as the protagonist NPC ally, but right now, she's an obstacle, so he must flee at top speed. Furious, Danya insists she will heal the bastard. After being healed, Shachiku thanks Danya, noting his recovery is complete. Exhausted, Danya begs him to wear equipment, or else he'll die. She warns him that one of the Elite Four, the puppet user Arachne, is in the castle. He runs off again, ignoring her pleas. Shachiku wonders why Danya's lines are different, attributing it to being in a dream. A giant spider, one of Arachne's familiars, confronts them. Danya screams that he'll die fighting it in just his undies, and tells him to run. Shachiku creates afterimages and attacks the spider. He repeatedly strikes the giant spider with his wooden stick. Danya watches in disbelief, shocked at his method of attack. After being struck repeatedly, the spider shrieks in pain. Shachiku explains that this is called the strange rod glitch. He elaborates that hitting the miniboss at specific points bugs the wooden stick's attack power, multiplying it to 1024 permanently, making it far stronger than the holy sword. Danya, completely lost, doesn't understand anything anymore, as Shachiku warns that the stick is a cheat item that could be patched. He explains that they were lucky to get a strengthening potion drop from the miniboss. He announces their next destination, the mid-boss dungeon, Arachne Castle. Inside the castle, Arachne greets the otherworld hero. She muses that she wants him, wondering if a human from another world will make a better puppet. Danya stands ready to defend him. Arachne reveals her true form and declares that he will become her puppet. To Danya's shock, Shachiku announces they will skip the mid-boss fight by using a bug. Arachne is left wondering where he went. One of her minions reports that he went through the wall. Arachne berates her minions. She furiously orders them to find the hero, declaring that he is hers. Meanwhile, Danya finds the spot where Shachiku clipped through the wall. Danya manages to pull herself through the wall. Shachiku explains that with the strongest stick, they can ignore the other members of the Elite Four and go straight to the last boss. He points out a crazy warp bug behind the castle that will take them to the deepest part of the last dungeon. He explains that while there's normally a fall death zone, one specific point doesn't work. Danya finally loses her patience, demanding to know what he is planning. She yells that he has only been screwing around. She reminds him he is supposed to be the otherworldly hero who will defeat the Demon King. Crying, she begs him that if he is truly the hero, he should save the world properly. He calmly replies that to clear the game, they do not need to fight mid-bosses. He explains that under any % rules, the goal is to minimize time loss, and nothing else matters as long as the game is cleared. He declares with grim determination that this is precisely why he will be the fastest to defeat the Demon King. Danya looks on with tears in her eyes. Having reached the target point, Shachiku announces they are now entering the last boss fight. After a moment of hesitation, Danya steels herself. She follows him, jumping off the cliff. During the fall, which serves as valuable resting time, he uses the buff potion. He thinks that things have been going well so far. He's pleased with his success on the Jin Senpai skip and the fast strange rod glitch. He admits that the first-person immersion is unexpectedly good, though he feels embarrassed about trying to act cool in front of the NPC Danya. Danya, meanwhile, wonders about the strange dialogue he used earlier. He considers if he can improve his time even more. He reminds himself that since it's a dream, there's no point in measuring the time, and thinks about his day off tomorrow. His competitive nature takes over, and he resolves that when he wakes up, he has to speedrun. He aims to be faster than anyone. He wants to be even faster than his current self. They arrive in the final chamber, face to face with Demon King Apocalypse. Shachiku vows that this time, he will defeat the boss with no mistakes. The Demon King acknowledges the hero from another world. He calls him a lowly, arrogant human. The Demon King tells him to accept his merciful purge. Shachiku immediately skips the dialogue and strikes the Demon King. He explains that the early part of the final boss fight has no tech. The strategy is to avoid the tentacles and hit him 3 times with the buffed strange rod. However, since the boss is strong, a speedrunner with no health will die in a single hit. He knows that a single hit will kill him. But he is confident, stating that it's fine as long as he doesn't get hit. Danya is amazed, thinking that he's too strong and is overwhelming the Demon King just 30 minutes after leaving the castle. She marvels at the power of the hero summoned from another world. Shachiku lands his 3rd hit. The Demon King curses him as the timer hits 22 minutes. Danya celebrates, thinking they did it, but Shachiku tells her no. He explains that the 2nd phase is about to start. He elaborates that the 1st phase is harder and that the rest is just execution, much to Danya's confusion. He explains that this is a speedrun and there's a difficult glitch to save time called the Shachiku step. He clarifies that it's a glitch he found himself. He recalls that he failed this very glitch at the RTA event. He notes that the unskippable cutscene is ending and the Demon King will attack with random patterns, making the glitch's success dependent on luck. Shachiku turns to Danya and asks her to pray for him. Danya is confused, not understanding the speedrunning slang for needing good luck. The Demon King begins its attack. The Demon King launches a powerful attack. Shachiku recognizes it as a vertical attack and had hoped for a horizontal one to set up his glitch. He curses his bad luck. Danya, praying, also recognizes it's a bad pattern. To Shachiku's surprise, the boss prepares a different attack. He realizes it's suddenly changed to the horizontal attack pattern he needed. He looks over and sees Danya praying. He wonders if her praying stabilized the attack pattern and gets excited about investigating this new strategy when he wakes up. With the correct setup, Shachiku begins his maneuver. He begins to run horizontally along the wall. Danya watches in astonishment, exclaiming that he's running on the wall. He explains that the hard part is coming up and that he can run on the bugged ivy. He needs to step on an extremely small spot on the falling debris. He must match the angle and timing frame by frame. His target is the head core. He focuses intently as the timer approaches 24 minutes and 42 seconds. The Demon King curses the goddess. Shachiku soars through the air towards the boss. He successfully executes the Shachiku step. At 24 minutes and 53 seconds into his run, Shachiku lands a powerful, decisive blow directly on the Demon King's head core. The Demon King cries out that this is unforgivable. With its final breath, it curses the otherworldly hero as its body disintegrates. Danya watches stunned as the threat to her world is vanquished. After the battle, Danya approaches Shachiku, telling him he has admirably fulfilled his mission. She begins to reveal her true identity. Shachiku recognizes this as the start of the ending movie. He recalls that in the ending, Danya is revealed to be Queen Idaheim, who seals away the evil and brings peace. Shachiku mentally reviews his performance, concluding that it was a good run and likely the fastest on the board. He muses that he could have saved more time, but the new tech involving Danya might allow him to go even faster. His thoughts are interrupted when he notices the ending movie is taking unusually long to start, and Danya calls out to him. Danya cries out in distress, telling him that she can't return to her previous form. Shachiku is taken aback, confused by this unexpected development. She explains that her Saintess power isn't working. Shachiku realizes with dawning horror that if Danya can't transform back, the ending movie won't start. He concludes that even though he beat the last boss, the game has not ended. Standing in the rubble of the throne room, Shachiku faces a terrifying possibility. He is now stuck in the world of another verse and cannot return home. His internal timer glitches and stops. In the capital city of Folshula, Danya stands nervously outside a tailor shop. Inside, the shopkeeper cheerfully welcomes her. He asks which skirt she would like, but Danya clarifies that the clothes are not for her. A shirtless Shachiku appears from a fitting room, greeting them. Danya reacts with shock as he is introduced as the otherworld hero, whose fantasy adventure has just begun. After getting dressed, Shachiku and Danya sit down for a meal. Danya scolds him, telling him to refrain from doing flashy things in the capital. Shachiku, now wearing basic adventurer's gear, insists he is acting normally, a claim Danya immediately calls a lie. Shachiku sets up a privacy barrier so they can talk freely. He explains that his earlier actions were not on purpose. Due to the unexpected event of the game not ending, he had to assess the situation. He reveals that a bug created an invisible wall that prevented him from entering the tailor shop through the door. Danya recalls that the Anver study group has reports on how using bugs makes it impossible to enter some buildings normally. Danya is surprised, calling his choice to enter through the wall a huge problem. She dismisses his talk of a glitch as tomfoolery. Shachiku then explains that she is an entity in a game called Another Verse and that he is very familiar with it, though he is unsure if she can understand the full implications. Danya finds his explanation hard to believe. However, she cannot deny what she witnessed with her own eyes. She observes that these glitches are different from magic, as they consume no magical power. She concludes it must be some kind of outer power that exists outside the world's logic. She then startles Shachiku by suggesting that his use of glitches to defeat the Demon King might be the reason she can't return to her Ida form. He explains that while he's heard of the ending movie being bugged from things like dialogue errors. However, in the thousands of times he's speedrun the game, he has never seen a bug where Idaheim cannot revert back. He states that the glitches he normally uses would not cause such an issue, so this situation is completely outside his expectations. Shachiku insists he's definitely not the cause of this problem. Danya points out that if she is unable to revert, it means the method to fix it must also be outside his expectations. After a moment of thought, Shachiku agrees she is perceptive and reveals he has one idea. He tells her it is the true ending. He explains that simply defeating the Demon King only achieves the normal ending. To see the true ending, Shachiku explains, they must defeat all of the Elite Four and complete some special conditions. He gives a rough technical explanation, saying that achieving the true ending would initialize all game variables, clearing out the effects of the glitches. Danya struggles to follow his programming-heavy explanation. In short, reaching the true ending will erase the bugs and allow her to properly return to being Idaheim. Shachiku asks if he can return to his own world once she becomes Ida again. Danya confirms that she can use her time-crossing magic to send him back. She explains that as long as he still has a connection to his world, he can definitely return. She then quietly apologizes, saying it was wrong of them to drag him into their affairs. He reflects that he should be the one apologizing for being suddenly summoned. Danya offers a heartfelt apology, but Shachiku tells her not to. He admits that he really loves the world of Anvers. However, he explains that he needs to return home quickly because of work piling up and his desire to race his friends for speedrun records. Shachiku smiles warmly, telling Danya that coming to this world has made him truly happy. Danya looks back at him, her expression unreadable as she begins to say something. His pleasant demeanor vanishes as he grows agitated, confessing that he cannot calm down without speedrunning. Danya is shocked by his sudden change. He explains that ever since his first few clears, he has always been speedrunning Anvers and feels deeply uncomfortable staying still. He feels uneasy, as if a timer is constantly running. Danya looks on in horror. After his outburst, Danya calls him a pervert. She then composes herself and announces that they are heading to the Adventurers Guild. Since they are in an unusual situation, she believes they must confirm their surroundings, and the Capital's Guild is the best place to learn if any other incidents have occurred. He turns his head, his expression one of surprise. Shachiku looks up at the dark, swirling vortex in the sky above the city walls. Danya tells Shachiku to keep his great deeds a secret for the time being. She explains that the vortex is the root of evil the Demon King was protecting, the source of all monsters. Kiira Lechifica elaborates that without her Ida form, she is unable to seal the roots of evil despite the Demon King's defeat. Danya explains that even with the Demon King dead, the threat of monsters has not disappeared. Therefore, they cannot let the populace become complacent and must maintain their vigilance. Shachiku understands, quietly praising her as the saintess of salvation. He quietly affirms his understanding. Shachiku asks Danya if he can visit the item shop, and she hesitantly agrees. He suddenly runs off in a bizarre manner, prompting Danya to shout at him to stop. He takes in the detailed cityscape, marveling at the high-resolution scenery of Anvers. The experience solidifies the fact that he is really inside the game. Shachiku's thoughts race as he considers Danya's intelligence, finding it unnerving how well she understood his meta-explanations. He notes that her speech is too advanced for an NPC, beyond the game's known capabilities. He recalls telling her to aim for the true ending, an assumption based on the idea that this world operates on the game's programming. A bead of sweat forms as he seriously questions if this world is really inside the game. The loud sound of a horn startles both Shachiku and Danya. Danya's eyes widen in alarm. She recognizes the sound as the guard's hunting horn signaling danger. A guard shouts in panic that a monster has appeared. A civilian cries out that a wyvern with magical erosion is on its way. The guards confirm the barrier has been breached and yell for citizens to evacuate. Danya stands frozen in shock amidst the chaos. The wyvern descends upon the capital, casting a shadow over the buildings. Danya clenches her fists, furious that the creature has dared to invade the city. A huge explosion obliterates the wyvern in midair. Danya can only stare in stunned confusion at the turn of events. Shachiku calmly takes aim with a slingshot, while Danya watches in disbelief. He reveals his unconventional choice of weapon, a normal slingshot and some firecrackers. He holds up the slingshot, explaining how it helped him. A dumbfounded Danya asks what just happened, to which Shachiku replies that it was an easy win. He informs her that the attack is a fixed event tied to entering the capital for the second time. Danya mutters the words for fixed event, trying to comprehend his meaning. Shachiku elaborates that before he started speedrunning, he played the game normally to learn all its secrets. Shachiku explains his strategy, attacking the wyvern with a projectile at its fixed spawn point before it can act. He explains the rapid-fire shot technique, a glitch that allows for animation cancelling and extremely fast attacks, which causes him to vibrate. He apologizes, explaining he just wanted to defeat the monster quickly to avoid any harm to the city. Danya, annoyed, tells him to stop using glitches so openly, though she concedes his point. The townspeople react with disgust and confusion to Shachiku's strange vibrating motions. A man wonders about Shachiku's origins and calls for a guild member. The item shop owner points at Shachiku, recognizing him. He exclaims that this is the same person who bizarrely entered his shop through a wall in his underwear to buy clothes, leaving everyone completely baffled. Frightened by his strange behavior, a citizen points at Shachiku and accuses him of being a demon spy. Danya steps in to defend Shachiku, telling the agitated crowd that they are wrong and must calm down. The citizens refuse to listen, citing his inhuman vibrations and the suspicious circumstances of the wyvern's defeat as evidence. Danya grows frustrated, realizing the crowd's suspicion is a direct result of Shachiku using his glitches. Shachiku, looking downcast, quietly asks everyone to stop the accusations. A hooded old woman, Loran, observes Shachiku and concludes that he must be the otherworld hero. She recalls the official announcement that Ida-sama had summoned a hero for the first time in 100 years. Loran approaches Shachiku and asks if he is indeed the hero from another world. Shachiku awkwardly confirms her suspicion and offers a handshake. However, another person in the crowd warns Loran not to be fooled, yelling that Shachiku is a demon pretending to be a hero. Loran passionately declares that this person is definitely not a demon. She insists that she knows a demon when she sees one. She recounts the horrors of her past, when her hometown was overrun by demons and her sister was killed before her eyes. The shock from the torture she endured awakened a unique skill, enabling her to distinguish demons from humans. Using this ability, she confirms that Shachiku lacks the cruel aura characteristic of all demons. Loran takes Shachaku's hands and addresses him as the dear hero. She tells him that she has always been waiting for his arrival. Tears stream down her face as she begs him to give them a world without monsters, expressing her desire to stop being afraid. Shachaku looks on, his expression serious as he takes in her heartfelt plea. While they leave, a citizen shouts after Shachaku, telling him not to vibrate like that again. Shachaku reflects that the old woman's wish matched the game's scenario, even if the events leading up to it were different. Danya explains that the village was taken over 50 years ago by the Demon King's Elite Four member, Arachne. She adds that while a terrible massacre occurred, the true number of casualties is unknown, as the area is still under Arachne's control. Shachaku thinks to himself that the old lady's story was indeed part of the game's setting. However, he finds the reality of it far more painful than just watching it on a screen, and he couldn't think of anything to say. He reflects that it was a scene he had played through many times before. Danya explains that there are many others with similar circumstances, and that number will keep increasing as long as the source of evil remains. Shachaku states that she has already defeated the Demon King. Danya replies that despite that, she still has not fulfilled her true task. She feels she can't do anything when it counts, feeling unworthy of the title Saintess of Salvation. Shachaku tells Danya that she is still saving him. He clarifies that he is talking about the game, where her character is always following the hero. He recalls that the thought of her being with him in dark, scary dungeons eased his fear. He continues that even in their current situation, he can remain calm. Danya is touched as he explains it because he believes she is always by his side. Shachaku adds that besides, he is a fan of Danya and loves her very much. His sudden confession leaves Danya shocked and flustered. He enthusiastically explains that she was always #1 in the fan popularity polls, while Idaheim was only in 8th place. Understanding dawns on Danya as Shachaku explains that his tests confirm this world operates on the same programming as Anverse, allowing him to use glitches. He confidently tells her she will be able to return to her form as Idaheim. He proposes that they work together to save this world and get the true ending. They share a fist bump, after which he sheepishly explains that his way of addressing her is a conversational habit among otaku. The scene shifts to the Adventurers Guild, Ida's Shield. An adventurer reports that there was 0 human casualties from the magical erosion level 4 Wyvern attack. Jean reacts with shock, questioning how there could also be 0 material damage. Jean grabs the reporting adventurer, accusing him of slacking on the investigation, but the man insists the information is true. Kiira Rylechifica notes that the self-proclaimed another world hero seems to be the cause. She steps forward, asking what all the fuss is about. The adventurers look toward their leader, Guildmaster Kiira Rylechifica, as she stands before them. An event unrelated to the hero is currently underway. A member of the Capital Adventurers Guild, Jean, calls out Shachaku for having the nerve to show his face after ignoring him. He angrily warns the newcomer to prepare himself. Jean is bewildered as to why Shachaku is the one who appears so dejected after their confrontation. Shachaku bows and apologizes for his behavior earlier. He tries to explain that his reaction was just a spinal reflex and that Jean himself did nothing wrong. Internally, Shachaku admits that seeing Jean's face reminds him of his past gaming mistakes, which would always cause his failures to flash before his eyes. Jean questions Shachaku about his past mistakes. Shachaku quickly dismisses it as something unrelated and asks him to forget he said anything. Jean begins to wonder if seeing his face reminds Shachaku of some past regret. He speculates that his own face might resemble someone from Shachaku's past, like a brother who was assaulted by monsters. Jean's imagination runs wild, concluding that Shachaku must be blaming himself for being too inexperienced to protect his brother. Full of sympathy, Jean apologizes and offers his support, leaving Shachaku confused by the sudden turn of events. Danya senses there is a definite misunderstanding, but decides it is best not to say anything. Danya interrupts to tell Jean that she needs to speak with the guildmaster. Jean informs her that the master is currently at the royal castle, requesting permission to challenge the Elite Four. Shachaku wonders about the otherworld hero and the sages he's heard about. Jean confirms that Shachaku will be registering with the guild, which Shachaku affirms. Delighted, Jean once again welcomes him to Ida's Shield. Mayern, the guild receptionist, greets them and introduces Ida's Shield as the capital's Adventurers Guild. She explains that it serves as the main administrator for all guilds throughout the kingdom. Mayern presents him with his official guild registration badge. She details the ranking system, explaining that by completing quests, he can increase his rank from F and eventually aim for S rank to take on the hardest challenges. Myron explains that while an exam is normally required, he is exempted because of Danya's recommendation. Jean chimes in, telling Shachiku he's lucky because their exam is very hard. Jean boasts about the guild's perks, such as being backed by the Queen and having a badge that grants free passage through customs, while Shachiku thinks to himself that he already knows this. Jean continues, mentioning the high quest rewards and an annual visit from the Queen to offer encouragement. Jean mentions that many people join the guild just for a chance to get closer to the beautiful Queen Ida. Shachiku whispers to Danya, agreeing that it's fitting for the guild to be rewarded for their service. Myron suddenly puts Jean in a headlock, telling him to stop interrupting and that someone like him is no match for the Queen. Jean protests that it is Shachiku's fault and complains about Myron's violent tendencies. Shachiku is thrilled by the realistic character interactions, finding it even better than the game. He reflects on the game's incredible attention to detail, which creates a lively and immersive world. He admits he's been trembling with the urge to speedrun. Shachiku exclaims that the world of Anverse is too much fun, much to the confusion of the others. Myron asks Shachiku to place his hand on a crystallization device to proceed. He complies and the device activates. Myron reads the display and asks him to confirm his name. He states his name is Shachiku. The others find his name to be rare and refreshing, while Shachiku realizes his streaming name has carried over into this world. The device displays his name and level, Shachiku LV1. Danya points out in shock that Shachiku hasn't even leveled up once. Myron is momentarily stunned by the revelation. She tries to continue the registration process and tells Jean to help her out. Danya realizes the implication of his low level and asks if he really defeated the Demon King at level 1. Shachiku smugly confirms her suspicion, explaining that it's the standard speedrun route. Danya becomes frantic, exclaiming that he's speedrunning again. Shachiku decides to explain everything to Danya and casts soundproofing magic. He begins to tell her about the another verse, any percent speedrun's miraculous revolution. Danya is left utterly confused by the term. He explains that while it looks like a solo race, speedrunning is more of a team sport. The community works together, sharing information on new glitches and discoveries to improve their times. Shachiku mentions that the game is popular worldwide, with around 500 active speedrunners. Danya is overwhelmed by the thought of so many people competing. He clarifies that the goal of an any percent speedrun is simply to beat the final boss as fast as possible, despite the boss's immense health and power. Shachiku explains the evolution of the speedrun, from an 8-hour run with leveling to a faster 4-hour route using the powerful obsidian greatsword. Despite finding many glitches and warps, they were unable to break the 2-hour barrier for a long time. Then, like a comet, a game-changing discovery was made, a broken weapon, a strange rod with 1024 attack power. He explains that this was a massive glitch discovered 3 years after release, which had a huge impact on the speedrunning community. Thanks to this powerful wooden stick and the collaborative efforts of the community, he was able to beat the Demon King in under 26 minutes at level 1. He notes that not leveling made the fight itself much more difficult, as they were easier for the Demon King to kill. Danya, completely lost, forces a smile and admits she doesn't understand anything he's talking about. Myron calls out to Shachiku, thanking him for waiting. She begins to announce that his guild registration is complete. Suddenly, a tall, armored woman with long blonde hair enters, commanding the attention of everyone in the room. The newcomer is Kiira Lechifica, the formidable guildmaster of Ida's Shield. Jean and Myron are surprised to see the guildmaster has returned. Shachiku is visibly excited that she has finally appeared. He recognizes her as Kiira, the strongest female warrior in the game, noting that he hasn't seen her in a while as she isn't part of any speedruns. He remarks on her famously problematic character design, which he finds more overwhelming than appealing in person. Shachiku quickly tries to assure Danya that his staring was a misunderstanding and he had no ill intentions. Danya asks him to confirm that he understands her relationship with Kiira. Shachiku confirms that he knows Kiira is the princess's best friend and one of the few who knows Danya's secret. Jean and Myron observe that the master seems to be in a bad mood, likely because of her visit to the castle. Kiira looks sternly at Danya. She calls out Danya's name directly. Kiira turns her attention to Shachiku and asks who he is. Shachiku introduces himself and states that he will be a member of the guild from now on. He then declares that he is the Otherworld hero. Jean and Mayan are shocked, realizing this is the hero they'd heard about, and it explains why he is only level 1. Kiira remains silent, her expression unreadable. Kiira's face contorts with rage as she identifies him as the coward from another world. Danya and Shachiku are taken aback by her hostility. Using her appraisal skill, she sees that he is only level 1 and calls him trash. She explains that she heard the story of the summoned hero back at the castle. According to the story, the hero lost his nerve, abandoned his mission, and ran away without even taking the holy sword. Shachiku understands how his actions were interpreted, while Danya shouts Kiira's name. Danya insists that it's wrong and there's a reason for his actions, but Kiira tells her not to cover for him. Kiira begins to draw her weapon. Furious, she questions how long he's going to make fun of the people of this world, including Ida. A sword lands at Shachiku's feet. Kiira challenges him to a duel to prove he is the hero. She states that her guild has no need for level 1 weaklings or cowards. Mayan and Jean panic, fearing that Shachiku will be killed. Kiira tells them to relax, stating she'll use a wooden sword as well. She adds that while his bones may break, he won't die. When Jean tries to defend Shachiku based on his misunderstanding, Kiira yells at him to be silent. Kiira smirks, saying that if he doesn't want to hold a sword, then he can use his shoddy stick instead. Danya is stunned by the suggestion. Shachiku confidently agrees to the terms, grabbing his stick. He declares that he wouldn't be a man if he backed down, while Danya pleads for him to wait. Danya realizes in horror what stick he is holding. She recalls that it's the strange rod with 1024 attack power that slaughtered the Demon King. She fears what will happen if he uses such a powerful weapon on a human. She tells him that Kiira is her very important best friend. Shachiku simply responds that he knows. Shachiku turns to Danya with a dark smile, promising to finish the fight in an instant. Danya looks on in absolute terror. She collapses to the floor in fear, muttering Kiira's name. Kiira prepares for the duel, looking determined. With the two combatants facing each other, Danya screams Kiira's name in a final, desperate plea. Jean finds himself scratched up and scolded by Danya, even though he was the one who brought the potions. His perspective quickly shifts, however, as he starts to view the scratches not as injuries, but as a reward from Danya. This thought horrifies her, and she erupts, calling him a pervert and demanding potions to remove the marks immediately, which a confused Jean readily provides. Kiira remembers her grandfather's warning not to yearn to be a giant killer, a lesson from his many life-or-death battles. He taught her that such heroic tales of the weak defeating the strong are exceptionally rare. Instead, the outcome of a battle is decided by the quantity and quality of one's resources before the fighting even begins. Even with this knowledge, she thinks about the man in question, exclaiming that it is finally here. After a day of preparation, the group can now safely start racing tomorrow. Danya laments how many rocks she smashed, her hands now covered in blisters. Shachiku offers her a potion, noting that the ore used to be a guaranteed drop. She explains to Kiira that they used to be able to manipulate random drops, but a patch made it truly random, leaving Kiira as confused as ever. Kiira remains unimpressed, stating that a shining scale ore is simply a beautiful mineral. The crystals fetch a high price for decoration, but are too brittle for weapon crafting. Kiira concludes that even if it can make money, it won't be useful in a fight. A rustling sound from the trees alerts Kiira and Danya to a presence. A ferocious two-headed beast emerges, growling aggressively. Shachiku swiftly strikes the monster with his wooden stick, defeating it in one hit. The two-headed beast collapses, its glowing eyes fading as it dissolves. Shachiku expresses his dislike for the high encounter rate at night. Kiira is shocked that he beat an Orthrus with just a wooden stick, deeming it a superb feat. Danya trembles in fear, recognizing his strength as something beyond normal. As he turns to leave for the guild, Kiira stops him. Kiira tells him to take the magic stone from the defeated Orthrus. She explains that purifying magic stones is how people level up. Danya recalls that he didn't collect the stones from previous powerful monsters either. Kiira admits his fighting skill is high, but insists that facing Arachne at level 1 is too reckless. Shachiku thinks to himself, sweating slightly. He reasons that since he is not currently in a speedrun, it should be fine. He walks towards the monster's remains, telling the others they will understand soon. The magic stone pulses with energy on the ground. He reaches down to pick up the pulsating stone. His touch squishes the stone, causing it to disintegrate. A bright light erupts from where the stone was. Shachiku watches impassively as the light shines. Kiira questions what was so unusual about what just happened. Shachiku turns back to them, ready to explain. He states plainly that the cutscene is too long. His explanation leaves both Danya and Kiira utterly baffled. Danya and Kiira are confused, asking if leveling up is a problem for speedrunning. Shachiku explains the cutscene takes 32 seconds, with a 10-second loss even when skipped. He states that a 10-second loss is unacceptable in a speedrun under 30 minutes, admitting it's become a habit to avoid picking up any stones. While Danya feels she is losing her bearings, Kiira comments that it sounds like fun. Kiira notes that Danya's voice is lively. She remarks that it sounds just like when they were kids. Danya denies it, claiming it's just her imagination. She then announces they should prepare for the Arachne subjugation and walks off. Kiira watches her go, lost in thought. They arrive at the Adventurers Guild in the capital. Mayan, the guild receptionist, warmly congratulates Shachiku on acquiring a magic stone. Jean is amazed, wondering what kind of weak monster a level 1 could have possibly beaten to get such an item. Mayan presents a purifier, telling Shachiku that with this, he can finally level up. The magic stones are placed into the purifier and filled with a crystallization solvent. Mayan explains that the stones contain miasma, which can turn people into monsters if they absorb too much. Jean adds that this is what happened to the wyvern, as creatures higher on the food chain are more easily corrupted. But once the miasma is removed by the purifier, the stones become safe for humans to use for leveling up. Shachiku successfully levels up from 1 to 4. He admits that while watching the machine is exciting, the process takes too long. Kiira decides to check his given skill while they are there. She tells him that his skill is the only thing she can rely on given his low level, while Mayan and Jean wonder what they are planning. Kiira recounts the legend of the summoned hero, who is blessed with a skill to defeat the Demon King. She mentions they would have checked it upon his arrival, but he ran away too quickly. She offers to appraise his skill now, provided he consents. Mayan and Jean are excited that they will be the first to know the hero's skill. Their eager anticipation and speculation about powerful skills make Shachiku uneasy. He remembers that in the game, the newly summoned hero has absolutely no skills. This led to the castle folk feeling disappointed and even rebuking the one who performed the summoning. The game's progression requires defeating the Elite Four to awaken the hero's true skills. Therefore, he currently sees himself as nothing more than a weak level 4 with no skills and a basic weapon. Shachiku feels it would be difficult to disappoint the people he has come to know. Kiira looks at the skill and is puzzled, asking if it is written in an otherworld language. Shachiku is surprised by her question. He is stunned to hear that he actually has a skill, something he thought was impossible at this stage. Kiira decides to write down the letters she sees. She remarks that the letters are quite complicated as she begins to scribble. The transcribed text is a mess of incomprehensible symbols. Shachiku instantly recognizes it as garbage text. Danya asks if he can't read it, even though it's from his world, which he confirms. He worries that it's an unreported bug caused by his methods, leaving him clueless about his true skill. Danya resigns herself to the situation, concluding there is no other choice. Kiira announces her plan to subjugate Arachne alone tomorrow. Jean and Danya react with shock and disbelief. When questioned about permission from the old sages, Kiira states that she is acting on her own. Mayan and Jean protest, emphasizing the danger of facing an Elite Four member. Kiira explains that danger is approaching the capital and that she can at least drive off Arachne by herself. Danya and Mayan look on with concern. She lists their disadvantages: a level 4 hero with an unknown skill and only one valuable ore. Shachiku tells her he followed her for half the day out of consideration for Danya, but he has no idea what she is doing. She states firmly that because of this, she cannot trust him. Shachiku apologizes for his lack of explanation. However, he asserts that he has a strategy and that by working together, they can easily defeat Arachne. Kiira stares back at him, unconvinced. Jean brings up the fact that Shachiku doesn't know about Arachne. Shachiku acknowledges they cannot use the wooden stick and need a special strategy. He declares that they can compensate for their low levels with the power of money. Jean and Mayan are taken aback by his suggestion. Jean gets excited, thinking about hiring S-rank mercenaries like the party Silver Dragon Fang by selling the ore. Danya clarifies that one ore is only worth 10,000 sen, which can only hire a B-rank party, likely not strong enough. Kiira tells him that if that was his plan, he should have said so earlier. She explains that using her personal or guild funds would alert the old sages. Shachiku calmly states that if the issue is money, he can handle it. He smiles slyly, telling them he's about to do something bad and will demonstrate his otherworld power. He asks the group to keep what he is about to do a secret. Myron thinks it sounds fun, while Jean wonders what otherworld power means. Danya, however, feels that something crazy and bad is about to happen. Shachiku stretches, hoping he can still perform the trick. He lays out the required items, one shining scale ore and a simple slingshot. He first puts away the ore he took out. Then he begins to constantly equip and unequip the slingshot, his body shaking from the rapid movements. The rest of the group watches in utter confusion and shock. He abruptly pauses his shaking. He gives a thumbs up, announcing that he did it correctly. He explains that he equipped a ghost slingshot, which prompts Jean to ask what that means since he is holding nothing. Shachiku continues, stating that in this state, if he takes the shining scale ore from their inventory, a reaction will occur. A massive quantity of shining scale ores suddenly appears and spills onto the table. Everyone present is completely stunned by the sudden duplication. Shachiku proudly declares that they now have 999 ores and can trade them in for a massive amount of money. The rest of the group is in utter chaos, with Myron fainting from the shock. He tries to calm Danya by explaining it's a safe bug that won't harm the system. Kiira angrily tells him that's not what she's concerned about. Kiira inspects the ores, confirming that they are all real and have the exact same shape. While Danya panics about the market value, Shachiku calmly compares the situation to finding a new mine. Kiira is left speechless, realizing the impossible logic of this other world. She recalls his earlier words, now understanding that he truly did have a plan. Kiira looks at Shachiku with a new sense of awe. Unable to process the situation, Danya resorts to biting Shachiku's head while he protests and promises to defeat Arachne. Shachiku, flanked by a bewildered Kiira and Danya, presents a massive pile of 999 shining scale ores for exchange. At the Capital Merchants Guild headquarters, the staff is thrown into chaos by the sudden, overwhelming request. The guild appraiser, initially suspecting fraud, uses her monocle to appraise the massive pile of ores. She is shocked to find that every single one is genuine. In a panic, she orders her staff to gather every gold coin they have to meet the massive exchange value. Meanwhile, Shachiku grows impatient, noting the unexpected time loss from the real-world transaction, a true real-time attack on his speedrun mentality. The guild presents the group with several large sacks filled with 9,990,000 sen in gold coins. Shachiku thanks the staff and makes a swift exit with the money. Danya frantically calls out for him not to leave them behind. The guild appraiser is left completely bewildered by the whirlwind transaction. As they dash through the streets, Shachiku explains that by selling the duplicated ores, they were able to secure a massive amount of funds. He calls it the shining scale ores cheat, a tactic not currently in use. Kiira wonders if he can only explain things while running, a sentiment Danya seems to agree with. While running, a messenger bird delivers a letter from Myron to Kiira. The timing surprises her. She wonders if this too is part of Shachiku's intricate speedrunning plan. Catching up to him, she announces she has good news. A strong S-rank party is currently at the North Plaza. At the bustling capital North Plaza, a crowd has gathered. They are surrounding the renowned S-rank party, Silver Dragon Fang. The crowd fawns over the famous adventurers, eager to get an autograph. Eliha, the party's arch-sorcerer, introduces herself to her fans. She offers autographs, handshakes, and even a chance to pet the Silverwolf Lutal, all for a price. Some onlookers are surprised by the party's friendly demeanor, comparing them to entertainers. The party's leader, Mashamu, reminds Eliha that they are not traveling entertainers. He then addresses the crowd directly, asking for the whereabouts of the otherworld hero. Mashamu explains that they heard the Saintess summoned a hero 2 days ago. He announces their intention to add the hero to their party. His words ignite hope in the crowd for the defeat of the Demon King. A bystander suggests the hero is likely at the Adventurers Guild and offers to guide them. Suddenly, their path is blocked by a young man pointing directly at them. The guide collapses in fear. The guide's true form is revealed, a monster in disguise. Realizing they've been exposed, the imposters flee. Lutal immediately gives chase. The chase is short-lived, as Lutal lands a devastating punch on one of the imposters. The other fake, still in a witch's disguise, looks on in terror. The punched imposter is sent crashing into a nearby wall. The real Silver Dragon Fang party stands over the defeated fakes, with Mashamu worrying about their reputation. Iliha kindly helps the frightened man to his feet. She reassures him that unlike her imposter, she doesn't charge for handshakes. An old woman, Laran, who had secretly informed them of the imposters, receives their thanks. Mashamu expresses surprise at her ability to see through the monsters' disguises. He explains that revealing monsters in a crowd of civilians could endanger everyone. He commends her for calling for help discreetly, which was the correct course of action. Laran confesses that she still fears monsters whenever she sees them. Mashamu realizes her knowledge comes from a painful past. He asks Iliha to give the woman some relaxant incense. He gently reassures her that it will be all right, and that they will defeat the Demon King with the hero's help. Iliha and Lutol express some doubt about a newly summoned novice. Mashamu, however, smirks confidently, stating that the hero won't even get a chance to act. Meanwhile, Shachaku's group continues to run through Leonidal Main Street. Kiira questions if Shachaku is truly insane enough to run all the way to Arachne's castle, and Danya can't deny it. Shachaku declares that if running isn't fast enough, continuous cartwheels are the answer, much to his companion's horrified protests. Shachaku explains that performing continuous cartwheels correctly can double one's speed, a technique used by many speedrunners. However, the repetitive motion led to so many cases of tendinitis among runners. Because it was a health hazard, the move was eventually banned in official speedruns. The girls question if people in his world play games for fun, to which he replies that it's precisely because they play for fun that they take it so seriously. As Kiira watches Shachaku run ahead, she reflects on him. She thinks that the more she learns about him, the more mysterious he becomes. Her thoughts drift back in time. The memory takes her back 11 years to the royal castle. An 8-year-old Kiira struggles against guards, desperately pleading for them not to take away First Princess Ida. Despite being reprimanded for her informal address, Kiira insists it's fine because they are friends. Chief Priest Melina Rai Sarafari sternly tells Kiira to stop her unsightly behavior. She explains that Princess Ida is the saintess of salvation, the savior of their world. Therefore, she must not neglect her training for the hero summoning. Kiira retorts that she wouldn't be so angry if it were just normal training. She implies she doesn't trust the people in charge of the training. Kiira furiously accuses them of bullying Ida. She reveals she saw them hiding potions. She witnessed Ida being whipped. Sarafari coldly justifies this as training for Ida's spirit. She explains that for the hero summoning, the saintess must chant a holy verse for 10 days and nights straight. However, Ida had already fainted on the second day. The chief priest emphasizes that the great summoning can only occur once every 100 years and cannot fail. She states that the otherworldly hero is their sole hope against the Demon King's invasion. She challenges Kiira, asking if she would be fine with the world falling into a century of darkness. She calls them idiots for relying on a hero from another world to solve their problems. She demands to know why their own soldiers don't just go and defeat the Demon King themselves. She calls them a shameless lot for relying on a child. Sarafari challenges Kiira to defeat the Demon King herself. She then scoffs at the idea, stating that unlike Ida, Kiira has no special skills. She cruelly remarks that all a cute young lady like her can do is yelp and bark. Stung by the insult, Kiira wobbles over to a nearby soldier and picks up his heavy sword. She declares her pride as a member of the valiant house of Lechifica. She vows to become a swordsman stronger than anyone in the world, even the otherworld hero. She swears on her own name that she will be the one to defeat the Demon King. With tears streaming down her face, she screams for them to stop bullying her friend. From that day on, Kiira abandoned her beloved music and devoted herself to the sword under her grandfather's tutelage. By 15, she was unmatched in the castle, and at 17, she awakened her goddess's blessing. After defeating the Dragon Knight's commander at 18, she earned the legendary Lechifica's armor. Yet despite her power, she was never able to stop Ida's grueling training as she grew into her role as a saintess. Returning to the present, Kiira thinks of Ida, whose fight isn't over. Having finally attained great power, she now understands her childhood ignorance. She resolves to herself not to simply rely on the hero. Watching Shachaku run ahead, she wishes she could be the one to carry his heavy burden. Snapping out of her thoughts, Kiira realizes they've run right past the North Plaza. She calls out to Shachiku. She questions why he isn't going to hire the S-rank party. Shachiku bluntly states that he will not be hiring them. Kiira is aghast at his response. He apologizes, admitting he couldn't say anything in front of Jean the day before. Danya suddenly recalls that Shachiku never explicitly said he would. With that, it's confirmed the S-rank party Silver Dragon Fang will not be appearing in their strategy. Kiira chases after the departing Shachiku, demanding to know what the point of all this was. 50 years ago, the world was a different place. In the capital's outskirts, the quiet Tadenka village enjoyed a peaceful existence. A young village girl named Loran recalls this serene time, calling out to her sister. Loran's younger sister, Noran, excitedly announces that her fever is gone and she wants to join her. A man driving a horse-drawn cart greets the two sisters as they are about to head out. Noran tells him they are heading to the mountains to pick strawberries. The man expresses concern, mentioning that monsters have been seen roaming the area recently. He adds that Lord Haas has warned everyone to be careful outside the village. He specifically cautions the two sisters to be careful. He calls them the prettiest sisters in the village, a title that makes them look down with concern. Noran playfully dismisses his compliment, though he insists that everyone thinks so. A young man asks if they're looking for strawberries and hopes they'll share the jam. Another man advises Noran not to overdo it. An elderly woman reminds them to be home before dark. With waves and promises, the sisters set off on their way. While picking berries in the forest, Noran asks her sister if she is interested in the Otherworld hero. She explains that she read through the hero's past adventure logs. Noran dreams of visiting the beautiful places mentioned, such as the Great Tree of Life, the primeval forest of dragon bones, and the magic crystal cave. She wistfully wonders how she could go on a journey with the hero. Loran expresses doubt about Noran going on a journey due to her weak body, but Noran adamantly refutes this. She excitedly talks about receiving given skills. She explains to a curious Loran that they are special abilities the goddess gives to humans, which she read about in a book. Noran is confident that if she trains hard, she'll receive an amazing blessing, making adventures easy. Loran teases that by the time the next hero arrives, they will both be old ladies. Noran calls out to her sister, concerned by her sudden change in demeanor. Loran's light-hearted mood shifts abruptly as she stops and asks what the strange smell is. As they stand on a cliff's edge, Loran realizes with dread what is happening. From their vantage point, they witness a horrifying scene. Their village is overrun by giant spiders, and their homes are engulfed in flames. The village burns as the monstrous arachnids continue their assault. Loran and Noran can only watch in absolute terror. As they try to flee, Noran desperately says they need to get to Lord Haas. Their escape is cut short when a massive one-eyed spider monster attacks, grabbing Loran. The creature declares that it has finally found some tributes. The monster reveals they are to be tributes for Arachn-sama, chosen for their pretty faces. The two sisters are paralyzed with fear. Another captive is deemed a defective product with a trash skill. The spider monster declares that defective products must be branded. Noran, caught in a web, screams for her sister. The monster prepares to capture her next. It turns its many eyes on Noran, hoping for a better skill this time. The captives cry out in pain as they are tortured. Noran is branded, her face searing with pain as she screams for help and calls out for her sister. Loran can only watch in horror, the reflection of the monstrous spider filling her eye as she witnesses her sister's agony. An older, scarred Loran jolts awake, screaming her sister's name. The nightmare has left her gasping for breath in the quiet of her room. Loran realizes she is in the capital. She looks around the desolate room, noticing they are not there, and tries to calm herself. The emptiness is overwhelming, and she begins to cry. She collapses onto her bed, sobbing in despair as a spiderweb covers the cold fireplace. The memory fades, revealing a shocked Kiira in the present. She, Shachiku, and Danya now stand in the ruins of what was once Tadenka village, now known as Spider's Highway. The speedrun timer reads just over 9.5 minutes. Shachiku announces they will take the nearby Spider's Highway instead of the Forest of the Dead. Kiira recognizes this place. She recalls that this is where Arachne was 50 years ago. She remembers the royal decree forbidding anyone from entering Arachne's domain. Danya notes that the ruins seem strangely preserved, wondering if it is due to the miasma. Kiira stares at a pitchfork left on the ground. She sees other scattered belongings of the villagers. She murmurs that people were here just now. Danya calls out to her, sensing her distress. Danya points out that Shachiku is getting far ahead, urging Kiira to hurry. Shachiku turns back and tells them to keep up. He explains that this area is the hardest part of the Arachne subjugation speedrun. Kiira is confused, noting that Arachne's castle is still a long way off. A massive swarm of giant spiders emerges from the ruins, surrounding the party. Danya and Kiira look on in shock. Kiira recognizes them as Arachne's underlings. She prepares to fight with her Valkyrie's suite. Shachiku stops her, instructing her to save her given skill for the main fight against Arachne. Kiira protests that she'll be overwhelmed by their numbers, but Shachiku calmly notes that while it would be an easy win if he fought normally, he has other plans. Shachiku explains that since fighting takes time, they will get through without engaging in combat. He tells them they will dash through the horde and instructs them to copy his movements. As Shachiku dashes off, Danya snaps a dazed Kiira back to attention, telling her they have to follow. Shachiku explains his strategy while running. The spiders have fixed movement patterns, so the key is to change direction at a 60-degree angle the moment they react. He acknowledges it's a tough technique that requires careful movement, especially with low stamina, but today it will be easy. Danya shouts a warning as spiders close in from behind. Shachiku calmly says it is time and pulls out a bag of coins. He flings gold coins at the pursuing spiders. This coin-throwing technique deals damage and guarantees an escape, though it costs the user money. Shachiku explains that by sprinkling money randomly, the monsters will no longer chase them. He praises Kiira and Danya for their speedrunning talent as they safely clear Spider's highway, admitting he has no idea why monsters are drawn to gold. Danya is exasperated that the coins are for this purpose, while Kiira is annoyed at being praised for running fast. The timer shows they've spent just over 10.5 minutes. Kiira silently fumes, questioning why Shachiku, who has the power to fight, would scatter money just to run away. She notes his lack of sorrow for the village's tragic state. She recalls his talk of competitions and defeating Arachne in 15 minutes. She wonders if this entire fight is just a game to him. One day prior at the Demon King's throne, a figure rings a bell. It summons the beloved children of the wicked to gather. The summons goes out to various powerful entities. They are called to gather before the corpse of their father, the King of Despair, Apocalypse. The summoner is revealed to be Morphomet, one of the Demon King's Elite Four, and his daughter. She declares that they will give their father a sacrifice and commands her followers to bring her the head of the irritating otherworld hero. The story is set in the capital, at Folskilla Castle. Inside, Shachiku, Danya, and a royal figure approach the princess's tower. The royal figure dismisses a guard, insisting that Danya's presence is all the security they need. Aboard the floating lift, Shachiku expresses his confusion over seeing both Adaheim and Danya simultaneously. He theorizes it might be a joke made possible by the tenacity of clip makers. He notes that Danya has been uncharacteristically quiet. This leads him to wonder if he stumbled upon a genuine bug in the system. Danya tells the figure beside Shachiku that the act can be dropped. She addresses the royal figure as Ain. Ain asks if the hero is already aware of the situation. Suddenly he tears open his top, shocking both Shachiku and Danya. He discards the breast pads he was wearing. The reveal of his muscular male chest is complete. Relaxing on a couch, Ain teases his older sister Danya, suggesting she has a fondness for Shachiku. Shachiku is in utter shock, unable to process that the princess is a man. Danya attempts to get Shachiku's attention, addressing him by name. Danya formally introduces Ain as her younger brother and body double. Shachiku is baffled, questioning who this person is. Danya questions how Shachiku, with his vast knowledge, doesn't know about Adaheim's younger brother. Ain seems equally confused that Shachiku doesn't know about him. Shachiku recalls the names, settings, and patterns of all 1063 NPCs in Anvers. He concludes with certainty that there was never anyone like Adaheim's body double named Ain in that list. Ain acknowledges that the hero is from another world and that he himself is an anomaly not meant to exist in the original story. Ain begins his story with Adaheim's grandfather, the previous king, Lyndal Vii, whom he describes as a lustful man. The king was unsatisfied with nobles and commoners and had an affair with a prostitute. He concludes that this is how he was born, making him technically Adaheim's younger uncle, an awkward fact for Shachiku to learn upon their first meeting. After his mother died from a disease, he was not acknowledged by the royal family and was ignored. Because of his striking resemblance to Ada Heim, he was secretly welcomed into the palace to serve as her body double when she travels as Danya. Ain remarks that if he's playing a passive role either way, it's better to be a princess in a castle than live in the slums. Shachiku is taken aback by the crass tongue of someone with Ada Heim's face. Ain lists the few who know of his existence: his older sister, the king, and Kiira Dono. Danya comments that this hero is abnormal, which prompts Kiira to ask what she means. Ain states that there is no time for introductions and demands that Shachiku tell him everything about how he defeated Arachne in just 3 days. Kiira explains that the subjugation of the Demon King is a major political agenda and Shachiku's speed is making waves in the government. Danya mentions that Ain is a smart kid who handles her work as Ada when she is away. Kiira explains that the Wise Sages Congress is an advisory committee composed of representatives from the 6 great duke families that supports the kingdom. Shachiku remembers the Wise Sages Congress as a group that only appeared in name within the Anverse game. He recalls from a fanbook that the sages feared the Demon King's power and banned anyone but the Otherworld hero from attempting the subjugation. Danya surmises that some members of the Congress must be feeling uneasy about the Arachne subjugation. Shachiku privately acknowledges that only their small group knows the Demon King has already been defeated. Due to the unprecedented speed of the Arachne subjugation, the Wise Sages Congress has demanded an explanation from Guildmaster Kiira Dono. Ain predicts that Kiira Dono, being defiant, will sidestep the important details anyway. Shachiku realizes with a sweat drop that Ain has seen through his plan to cover up his speedrunning power. Ain states that this is why he has brought Shachiku here. As the older sister's stand-in, he desires to know the truth in greater detail than anyone else. Kiira tells Shachiku she doesn't mind if he tells Ain everything, including what happened right after he was summoned. Shachiku understands and agrees. Danya turns to Ain and warns him that he is about to hear something crazy and must stay strong. Ain smirks, telling her not to look down on him, as he expects a strange story and won't be easily surprised. Ain's composure shatters as he learns the truth, exclaiming in tearful shock that the Demon King is already defeated. Shachiku attempts to explain the concept of a competition called speedrunning to a baffled Ain. Danya finds Ain's reaction interesting and different from Kiira's, while Ain questions the strategy of defeating the Demon King first. Danya simply states that the hero is abnormal, and Ain yells that there's a limit to abnormality. Danya explains that only she, Shachiku, and Kiira Dono know the Demon King is defeated, and since the roots of evil are not yet sealed, revealing the truth would only cause confusion. Ain trusts his older sister's account and resolves to handle the Congress so they won't interfere with Shachiku's activities. He then points directly at Shachiku, emphatically stating that he has not earned his trust yet. He is particularly wary of Shachiku's unbelievable power. Ain informs Shachiku that he has some urgent business that requires his speedrunning power. He tasks Shachiku with rebuilding Tadanka village, the area previously ruled by Arachne. Danya and Shachiku are surprised by the request to rebuild a village with speedrunning. Now that Arachne is gone, Tadanka village is free land that belongs to no one. The prosperous village, located near the capital and a dungeon, is now an alluring target for demons and scoundrels seeking a base. Ain explains that within a few days, news of Arachne's fall will spread, and he wants to prevent another strong demon from taking over the area. Ain adds that the capital is becoming overcrowded with refugees, so setting up facilities in the village quickly would solve 2 problems at once. He acknowledges that the hero seems confident in his speed. He proposes a timeframe of 2 weeks for the task. Danya exclaims in disbelief at the seemingly impossible deadline. Danya argues that rebuilding a village is a decade-long process, but Ain confidently asserts that Shachiku can do it with speedrunning. Internally, Ain thinks that rebuilding the village in 2 weeks is impossible. His real goal is to detain the hero in Tadanka village for 2 weeks, as he has already arranged for the necessary laborers. He admits the hero has exceptional strength and plans to have him repel approaching scoundrels and demons for 2 weeks while being monitored. Ain's plan is to ascertain the hero's true identity and abilities during the 2 weeks he is stalled. He presents the task not as an official request from the princess, but as a personal challenge. He encourages Shachiku to try his best for 2 weeks, promising not to get mad if he can't do it. Shachiku clarifies the rebuilding requirements: a curtain wall, 10 houses, a town hall, and prepared fields. Danya expresses her doubt, stating that such a task would normally take months and questions if it can be done via speedrunning. Shachiku explains that while the rebuilding event isn't necessary for the true ending, it can be done normally using the 100% speedrun route. He confidently states that speedrunning is not just about clearing the game by defeating the Demon King. Shachiku thoughtfully considers the task and estimates it will take maybe 30 minutes. Ain is left completely speechless by this assertion. Ain furiously asks if Shachiku is mocking him. He angrily lectures that rebuilding is a long, arduous path that takes decades, not 30 minutes like cooking. Shachiku points out that Ain just told him to do it in 2 weeks, to which Ain retorts that he never believed it was possible. Shachiku feels like he's being harassed by a boss and wants to go home. Danya shouts for silence. She admonishes Ain, saying she doesn't want to see him making pointless rants, especially in her form and to the hero. She demands that Ain reflect on his actions. A chastised Ain can only stammer, calling her sister. Ain quietly apologizes. Shachiku internally notes that Ain is the type who cannot win against his older sister. Danya asks Shachiku to forgive Ain's discourtesy. She explains that Ain's skepticism and provocations were just him worrying about her. She then points out that Shachiku himself is not an easy person to trust, reminding him of his use of bugs and glitches, and tells him to have some self-awareness. Danya tells Ain that when it comes to speedrunning, Shachiku can accomplish what he says he can. She reassures him that while Shachiku might be a bit weird, he can be at ease. She adds that he is not a bad person. Danya thinks to herself that Shachiku doesn't just stop at being a bit weird. Ain quietly accepts her explanation. Shachiku states he will enter Tadanka village tomorrow morning and expects to finish before noon, even though Ain hasn't trusted him yet. He invites Ain to come watch, but Ain claims he's busy with a congress meeting about the Arachne subjugation. Ain concedes that he might go check on the progress in the afternoon, if time permits. He waves goodbye, telling Shachiku to try his best. Shachiku ponders the existence of Ain, Adaheim's double, an NPC not found in Anverse. He reasons that if he considers Anverse a real world, it's not so strange for someone like Ain to exist. He felt the humanity in their family connection, and can no longer dismiss them as artificial NPCs. He feels like he's exploring the world behind the scenes, which is the height of joy for an Anverse otaku. Shachiku considers that a speedrun route is made by optimizing known elements, and if there are unknown variables, the current route might no longer be valid. He knows that the biggest threat to speedruns is unexpected elements. He thinks it may be too late to worry, since Danya being able to talk to him freely is already an irregularity. Danya asks if speedrunning is about adjusting to the unexpected, but Shachiku can only pray he can finish his run tomorrow. Meanwhile, at the capital outskirts in the ruins of Tadenka village, a pair of goblins scavenge through the rubble. A powerful witch unleashes the spell Primus Ignis, engulfing the creatures in flames. The witch and her 2 companions stand over the smoldering remains. The group is introduced as the S-rank party, Silver Dragon Fang, featuring Silverwolf warrior Lutal, One-Eyed Dragon Mashamu, and Great Magician Eliha. They discuss how their monster-repellent work has decreased the number of monsters in the area, seemingly meeting Ada-sama's expectations. Mashamu reveals that Ada-sama has just sent them a letter via a messenger bird. The letter states that the Otherworld hero will be coming tomorrow. Eliha finds it eccentric that the hero managed to defeat Arachne in only 3 days since his summoning. Mashamu reads the new request, which is to assist the hero in rebuilding the village and report on his actions, leading them to believe it's more of an investigation. Mashamu decides that for now, they must apologize to the hero tomorrow for underestimating him as a newly summoned novice. Eliha notices Lutal's sudden change in demeanor. Lutal growls, sensing a strong demon in the vicinity. His warning startles Eliha and Mashamu. He activates his Wolf's Reveal skill. A dark, amorphous shape rises from the ruined stonework. A large black slime materializes from the darkness. Mashamu recognizes the creature as a slime. The slime attacks with incredible speed, striking Lutal before he can defend himself. Mashamu slowed screams Lutal's name. The slime oozes and comments on the taste of its meal. It licks its lips and identifies the taste as a silverwolf. Mashamu recognizes it as an endangered species, while the creature claims to have eaten many of them. The slime transforms into a humanoid figure. Raspy and smugly asks if they are right. Raspy effortlessly dodges a powerful sword strike. Mashamu realizes he missed the creature's core. He is surprised by the slime's speed, thinking its movements would be duller after eating, and understands he can no longer remain calm. Raspy mockingly tells Mashamu not to get mad, as they just ate his pet dog. Mashamu angrily tells the brat to shut up. As Eliha kneels over the remains of their companion, Mashamu assures her he is all right. He turns to Eliha and offers to buy her anything she wants later, even trendy lipstick. In return, he asks her to give him 200 years worth of mana. Eliha realizes their opponent is Elite 4 class, having slaughtered the legendary Silverwolf Lutal in an instant. She doesn't mind lending her power, which is contained in an ancient rune she has built up for 1,000 years. She declares that she hasn't gone wild in 200 years and will lend him her left hand. Raspi tells them they have kept them waiting. Mashamu and Eliha, now powered up, declare that it's time for a special hyperdiscipline class for the brat. Mashamu states that the tuition for this lesson is their life. Raspi pats their full stomach, having eaten a great deal. They express disappointment, having thought the man possessed by an evil dragon would put up a better fight. The fight was just a large-scale release of mana, which Raspi found lame and lacking novelty. Raspi calls the Silverwolf and his companion pathetic and outrageous. Raspi throws a tantrum, calling the world outdated and boring because they already know everything. A scroll rustles nearby, catching their attention. They recognize the royal crest on the scroll. Their eyes light up with excitement as they realize it's about the otherworld hero. As their slime form oozes, they declare that they will finally meet. Raspi plans to get all the unknown secrets out of the hero. Surrounded by the defeated party, Raspi sinisterly adds that they will get a taste of him, down to the marrow, putting Shachiku in a pinch. In a grand hall